Have you ever walked into a place of luxury, only to be judged instantly based on your appearance? What if that person was Keanu Reeves, one of Hollywood's biggest stars, yet dressed simply and without any fanfare? In this story, Keanu steps into an upscale car dealership, only to be met with condescension from an arrogant manager who dismisses him at first glance. But instead of reacting with anger, Keanu takes a different path, one that will leave the world reflecting on the true meaning of respect. What happens when Keanu turns prejudice into a powerful lesson? And how does a single moment of quiet dignity spark a much larger conversation about human worth? Join us in reflecting on this true story. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell notification for more daily stories like this. Share your thoughts in the comments and let us know where you or what. We would love to hear from you. Keanu Reeves awoke to another sunny Los Angeles morning, slipping into a worn black leather jacket and frayed jeans before heading out for a quiet stroll. Despite being one of Hollywood's most recognizable faces, he lived unassumingly, rarely drawing attention to himself. Passing by familiar streets, he greeted a few fans with a modest nod and a gentle smile. People often wondered how fame had never seemed to corrode him, yet he simply went on with his life as though he were an everyday person. En route to his usual coffee shop, he mulled over a project he'd been planning for months, a meaningful venture involving cars. Keanu had a soft spot for vehicles, especially classics that told a story through design and heritage. After ordering his usual from the barista, Oliver, he spent a moment reflecting on the idea. Perhaps he would restore a rare car, then auction it off to benefit a cause that promoted kindness and equality. Sipping his coffee, he decided that day was as good as any to visit a particular luxury dealership reputed for housing unique, vintage automobiles. Stepping through the dealership's glass doors, Keanu found himself immersed in a setting brimming with opulence. The floor glistened with a mirror-like shine, reflecting the curves and contours of sleek cars under bright, curated lighting. Salespeople in tailored suits circulated among customers sporting designer apparel. Soft classical music wafted through the air, underscoring the sense of exclusivity. Clad in simple clothes that bore signs of wear, Keanu moved unobtrusively through the showroom. Few recognized him at first glance, though some who did whispered in hushed tones. He paused at a striking classic car near the back, a rare model rumored to be almost impossible to find. Its streamlined body and polished chrome details were mesmerizing, each curve hinting at the golden age of automotive craftsmanship. He ran his hand near its fender, smiling at the timeless elegance. He approached a nearby salesman, staring intently at his phone. "Excuse me," Keanu said politely. "Could you tell me more about this car?" The salesman barely looked up. He muttered a distracted, "Hang on," before wandering off, leaving Keanu standing alone. The indifference was palpable, but Keanu simply shrugged it off. He let his eyes return to the vintage masterpiece, ignoring the undercurrent of disapproval emanating from a cluster of employees who cast doubtful glances his way. A faint buzz of conversation flared behind him. Snippets floated through the air. "He doesn't look like he belongs here," or "but he can't afford the door handle." Keanu said nothing. Over the years, he had learned to let unkind words roll off his shoulders. Yet it never ceased to amaze him how quickly people judged by appearance alone. He focused on what mattered, the glinting lines of that rare vehicle, the history that might be restored, and the philanthropic goal he had in mind. Just then, the manager, Richard, appeared, posture rigid, arms folded, a polished name tag glinting under the overhead lights. The tension around him was immediate, as though he carried an aura of condescension with each step. His gaze flicked to Keanu's jacket, then his jeans, a hint of disdain curving his lips. If he recognized Keanu Reeves, he gave no indication. "Can I help you?" Richard asked, his tone neutral but tinged with skepticism. "I'm interested in this classic model," Keanu replied, gesturing at the car. "I've heard it's quite rare." Richard took a moment to scrutinize him from head to toe. "It is. We only keep vehicles of the highest caliber here. Very exclusive." He emphasized the last word as if to drive a wedge between Keanu and the notion of ownership. You realize this is priced well above what most would consider reasonable, right? Keanu met Richard's steely gaze evenly. Yes, I do. I'd still like to know more about it. A smirk tugged at the corner of the manager's mouth. This is a place for serious buyers who understand luxury. Are you sure you're in the right showroom? He made a theatrical flourish with his hand, indicating Keanu's worn outfit. The entire atmosphere crackled with tension. Employees and a few customers paused, openly eavesdropping. Keanu remained composed, unwilling to let hostility provoke him. I'm here because I appreciate the craftsmanship, he said calmly. What makes it special is exactly what I've been looking for. Richard's smirk deepened, and he squared his shoulders as if readying for a confrontation. Well, I hope you know what you're getting into. This model isn't for just anyone. Keanu Reeves, unflappable as ever, stood before the rare automobile while Richard hovered nearby like a territorial gatekeeper. The manager maintained an air of superiority, and the tension thickened with every passing moment. Other staff members, sensing the friction, drifted closer, feigning tasks while sneaking glances at the unfolding interaction. Whispers escalated as more people recognized Keanu's face, uncertain whether to intervene or watch the drama unfold. Richard, still wearing his condescending expression, circled around Keanu. You might want to consider something more within your budget, he remarked. His gaze flicked once more to Keanu's simple attire. That's if you truly plan on buying. Keanu caught the subtle emphasis on if. He met Richard's eyes evenly. I haven't said I'm not interested in buying, have I? Is there a reason you're assuming I can't afford it? With a dismissive chuckle, Richard stepped between Keanu and the car. Look, let me level with you. This place isn't a museum. People come here to purchase high-end vehicles. The kind of people who wear suits, carry black cards, and don't hesitate over $1 million price tag. He paused, letting the words hang. No offense, but you don't exactly fit the profile. The corners of Keanu's mouth tightened subtly. He had seen variations of this scenario many times. Individuals who equated worth with appearance, ignoring the fact that true character often wore humble clothes. Profiles, Keanu repeated thoughtfully. Those can be misleading. I don't think so, Richard retorted with a soft snort. I know exactly what kind of buyer belongs here. And frankly, you're not it. He gestured theatrically at the showroom, filled with sleek, impossibly expensive cars. You might do better at a second-hand lot down the street. A hush settled in, employees and customers alike waiting to see how Keanu would respond. The calm on Keanu's face belied the unease simmering beneath. Funny, he said quietly. I thought respect was a universal language, not restricted to people in expensive suits. Richard laughed, a short, mirthless sound. Respect is earned, friend. And if you want me to respect you, you better show me you're not just wasting my time. It was the final thread of courtesy snapping. Keanu squared his shoulders and spoke with level firmness. I asked for details on this car. I made a simple inquiry, nothing more. If you're not willing to help me, I'll find someone who will. Richard's jaw tightened. Perhaps he realized that his blatant rudeness risked tipping into unprofessional territory. Yet pride drove him forward, unwilling to concede. I manage this dealership. If I don't see potential in you, my staff won't either. So why don't you just? Keanu's voice cut in, still measured but gaining an edge. Let's say I can buy this car. Let's say I'm here for a reason beyond mere curiosity. What does it cost you to at least give me basic information? Unless, of course, you thrive on pushing potential customers away. At that, Richard's composure snapped. Don't lecture me, he snapped. You show up dressed like you're headed to a biker bar, expect top-tier service, and then try to lecture me about respect? The hush deepened. A couple of employees shuffled their feet, clearly uncomfortable. One of them, a younger salesman, pulled out his phone, his expression tense. You hit the record button? Uncertain whether there's a difference between top-tier service and common decency, he said evenly. If you can't grasp that, maybe you're in the wrong line of work. Richard's frustration reached a boiling point. His cheeks flushed as he took a step forward, fists clenched. He refused to back down, and it was clear he wanted to intimidate Keanu into retreat. Yet, Keanu remained steady, eyes unwavering. "You have no idea who you're talking to," Richard growled, chest puffing. "I've seen 1,000 wannabes waltz in here, pretend they have money, and vanish when the checks due. Go save yourself the embarrassment." Tension coiled like a spring. The onlookers watched with bated breath, unsure if the manager was about to lose control entirely. In that moment, an eerie silence seemed to dull all background noise. Then, in a rushed, heated motion, Richard raised his arm, fury contorting his features. Whether it was a shove or a punch he intended, it was too quick and too reckless to parse. But Keanu reacted instantly, capturing the manager's forearm in midair. The movement was swift, confident, and defused the blow without harm. Mouths fell open across the showroom. The manager stood frozen, shock flickering through his eyes. Keanu's grip was firm but not violent, as though his primary objective was to prevent escalation, not to retaliate. He locked eyes with Richard, and though his voice remained quiet, each word was as sharp as glass. "Respect doesn't cost a thing," he said. "If you can't offer it, don't expect it in return." Slowly, he released Richard's arm. The manager stumbled back a step, face pale with indignation and perhaps a touch of fear. The entire scene felt suspended in time, until Keanu turned on his heel and walked calmly toward the exit. In the dealership's parking lot, the California sun shone as if nothing unusual had transpired. Keanu slipped on a pair of sunglasses, stepped out the door, and felt a wave of relief wash over him. Behind him, the environment was still tingling with the aftermath of the altercation. A moment later, as he walked away, a young customer who had been filming rushed after him. "Mr. Reeves?" the young man said breathlessly, his phone still recording. "I'm so sorry you had to deal with that. Are you okay?" Keanu paused, turned slightly, and offered a reassuring nod. "I'm fine, thank you. But it's not about me. It's about how people treat each other." He regarded the phone with a thoughtful expression, then added, "Just remember, in situations like these, we can all choose to respond with dignity." The young man nodded, capturing Keanu's final words before the actor disappeared into the bustle of Los Angeles life. Within hours, the video found its way on his social media platforms, courtesy of the impassioned bystander. The footage revealed Richard's antagonism, culminating in the manager's attempted strike, blocked expertly by Keanu's calm defense. Keanu's succinct admonition about respect resonated powerfully, fuel for the internet's hunger for viral moments. By the next morning, the video had spread like wildfire. News outlets played it on repeat. The beloved Hollywood star, known for his humility, confronting a haughty car dealership manager. Articles popped up under sensational headlines, such as "Keanu Reeves harassed in luxury dealership," "Manager loses control," and "Actor's remarkable composure goes viral." Fans were outraged on Keanu's behalf, but they also commended him for defusing a potential fight. The dealership, once a bastion of exclusivity, now found itself vilified by the court of public opinion. Negative reviews flooded their social media pages, phone lines jammed with calls demanding accountability. Customers, both existing and prospective, voiced their intention to boycott the establishment. Meanwhile, the brand's higher management scrambled to control the fallout. Richard, the manager, faced immediate scrutiny from his superiors. He attempted a half-hearted public apology, released through the dealership's official channels. "I regret the incident that transpired with Mr. Reeves. My actions do not reflect the values of our company." However, the damage had been done. Public sentiment was firmly against him, and each new attempt at damage control only fueled the outrage. People pointed out how his apology failed to address the underlying disrespect and prejudice he had displayed. As the scandal brewed, Keanu Reeves remained characteristically silent about the ordeal, neither confirming nor denying any details. True to form, he wasn't seeking vindication or revenge. He went about his usual routine, sipping coffee at small cafes, discreetly offering help to local charities, and focusing on his professional obligations. Still, the world wanted answers, pushing news outlets and fans to demand a response. One morning, a close friend and confidant approached him, curiosity brimming. The friend said, "Everyone's talking about how you handled that manager. People are wondering if you'll take legal action or at least call them out publicly. Some are even calling for that dealership to be shut down." Keanu gave a small shrug, neither pleased nor displeased by the attention. "I'm not looking to ruin anyone," he replied softly. "What he did was wrong, but I also understand anger can come from a place of insecurity or frustration. If he learns from this, maybe that's enough. Respect is about how we move forward, not just punishing the past." The friend shook his head, equal parts admiration and disbelief. "That's classic you." In the meantime, the internet's fervor only grew. Inspirational quotes from the footage circulated widely, with Keanu's line, "Respect doesn't cost a thing," splashed across countless memes and banner images. Influencers weighed in, praising his stoic composure. Activists used the opportunity to discuss broader themes of discrimination and prejudice, pointing out that such scenarios occur daily to people less famous than Keanu Reeves. Behind the scenes, the dealership's corporate leadership convened an emergency meeting, determined to stop the hemorrhaging of their brand's reputation. They swiftly suspended Richard, launching an internal investigation to placate the public. It was too little, too late for many, as the internet seldom forgives swiftly. Several of the dealership's biggest clients publicly withdrew, citing moral objections. Wealthy patrons who once prized exclusivity decided their image would be tarnished by association. Meanwhile, the most curious development transpired when an independent journalist uncovered how Keanu had been searching for a specific car to restore for a charity auction. This revelation added further poignancy to the narrative. Not only had he been mistreated, he'd also been on a philanthropic quest. The public's sympathy for him and contempt for the dealership skyrocketed. Still, Keanu tried to remain as anonymous as possible in the swirl of media. He recognized that some incidents fade, while others linger as catalysts for greater change. He contemplated whether to revisit that dealership or to leave matters as they were. Something in him whispered that the story was incomplete. He sensed a responsibility not to let it become a mere social media spectacle, but a moment that could teach a broader lesson. Days slipped by, and the uproar around the video refused to subside. The dealership's troubles only deepened when a series of employee testimonies leaked online, painting a picture of a culture steeped in elitism. Anonymous staff members recounted how Richard often belittled people he deemed unworthy, a pattern of behavior that had eroded morale and tarnished the brand. The senior executives, desperate to salvage their name, terminated Richard's employment. Yet the public's anger did not wane quickly. Amid this chaos, Keanu Reeves found himself pondering a dilemma. Should he continue to keep silent, or might his voice steer the narrative in a more constructive direction? Aware of how public his persona was, he recognized that one statement could either mollify the controversy or fan its flames. In quieter moments, he reminded himself that he disliked fueling drama. He'd always been someone who let actions, not words, define him. He decided to do what felt natural, return to the dealership, not for retribution or self-righteousness, but to demonstrate a lesson bigger than both him and the dealership. Early one afternoon, he slipped through Los Angeles streets unseen, wearing a simple cap pulled low over his brow. When he arrived, the once grand showroom was eerily subdued. The few salespeople on duty seemed lost in tasks, their expressions anxious. Shiny, extravagant cars still lined the gleaming floors, but the throngs of customers were gone. Keanu walked in, and the hush was immediate. Eyes darted to him with recognition. Whispers floated, but no one rushed forward to confront him. The tension hung in the air like static electricity. One employee, a young woman with a polite smile, approached cautiously. "Mr. Reeves?" she asked, voice tremulous. Can I help you with something?" Her sincerity contrasted sharply with the hostility he'd encountered before. Keanu nodded gently. "I'd like to talk to whoever's in charge, if possible." Before long, a new manager, evidently assigned after Richard's dismissal, emerged from an office. He wore a humble expression, as though fully aware of the spotlight placed upon the dealership. "Mr. Reeves," he said, extending a hand. "I'm Neil, the interim manager. I'm so sorry for what happened to you." Keanu studied him quietly. "I appreciate the apology, but I'm not here for that." Neil shifted on his feet, nerves evident. "Please, if there's anything we can do, let me know. We want to make this right." Glancing around at the half-empty showroom, Keanu exhaled slowly. "Making this right requires more than a personal favor to me," he replied, tone measured. "It's about recognizing how quick judgments can harm others, famous or not." Neil lowered his gaze. "We're implementing new guidelines, training, you name it." The old manager's attitude was not reflective of our company's values. "Maybe not," Keanu countered softly, "but it thrived here for a long time. Culture doesn't change overnight. It takes intention, accountability, and empathy." The moment brimmed with solemn understanding. A handful of employees hovered, listening intently. Quiet ripples of agreement passed among them, as though they too had yearned for a shift in the dealership's ethos. Neil nodded. "You're absolutely right. It's going to be an ongoing process." Keanu glanced at the rare car he'd been drawn to on his first visit. It still sat in the same spot, the spotlight reflecting off its immaculate surface. He approached it, letting his fingertips graze the fender just as before. "This was what I came for," he said, voice tinged with nostalgia for a plan now altered by unfortunate events. The new manager brightened slightly, venturing a soft pitch. "I can show you all the details, engine specs, restoration history, everything. We'd be honored if you'd still consider purchasing it." For a long pause, Keanu gazed at the car's classic lines. He inhaled, thinking about how that dream of restoring it and using it for a charity auction was overshadowed by the ugliness he'd encountered. Then he shook his head, turning away. "Not from here," he answered gently but decisively. "I'm sure you'll find another buyer eventually. But for me, the meaning is lost in this space." His refusal landed like a quiet thunderclap. No one argued. They understood this was about principle, about showing that not every conflict could be resolved with money or apologies. In a softer tone, Keanu continued, "I hope the changes you speak of truly take root. People deserve respect, no matter what they look like or how they dress. That's a lesson all of us can stand to remember." Neil swallowed, brow furrowing as he nodded. "Thank you, Mr. Reeves. We will do better." With that, Keanu glanced around once more. The subdued staff, the empty floor, the half-lowered shutters. It painted a portrait of a business in the wake of a harsh lesson. He slid his hands into his jacket pockets and walked out, leaving behind an air of both regret and possibility. An onlooker captured photos of him exiting, which quickly circulated online. News of Keanu's second visit spread, fueling yet another wave of commentary. Some praised his maturity and refusal to hold grudges. Others commended his stance on principle. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, the dealership scrambled to reshape its policies and rehabilitate its shattered image. The seeds of real change had been planted, but time would tell how deeply they would grow. Not long after exiting the troubled dealership for the second time, Keanu Reeves headed across town to a more modest car, lot owned by a middle-aged man named Sam. Sam's reputation preceded him. He treated every customer with the same kindness, whether they arrived in designer suits or scuffed sneakers. The lot was no grand showroom, just a handful of well-kept classics and dependable vehicles displayed on cracked asphalt. Yet it radiated warmth that the luxurious dealership sorely lacked. Curiosity flickered in Sam's eyes as he recognized the actor stepping onto his lot. Still, he greeted Keanu with the same friendly smile he gave anyone else. "Good afternoon," Sam said, wiping his hands on a rag. "Looking for something special?" Keanu surveyed the cars, a faint grin appearing at the stark contrast to his previous experience. "I am. Something unique that could be restored and then used for a meaningful cause. Sam brightened, excitement evident. I've got a few older models that might pique your interest. They aren't pristine, but the right pair of hands could turn them into something amazing." He led Keanu to a corner of the lot where three classics sat. Their paint had dulled, some chrome was chipped, yet they seemed to exude stories from long ago. As Keanu inspected each one, Sam gave him detailed histories, where he'd found them, how previous owners treated them, which parts were still original. There were no attempts at upselling or condescension. Instead, Sam offered honesty, highlighting both the pros and the cons. After a few minutes, Keanu gravitated toward a 1960s gem with graceful curves and an aged interior that looked salvageable. "This one," Keanu said, carefully touching the door handle. "It feels like it has potential." Sam nodded, smiling appreciatively. "I can get you the full record. And if you decide to buy, I know a couple of restoration experts who'd be thrilled to work with you." While Sam fetched the paperwork, Keanu strolled around the car. Memories of the fiasco at the luxurious dealership flashed in his mind, reminding him how drastically different two places could be, how drastically different two people could be, when it came to simple human decency. Soon, Sam returned, offering Keanu a seat in a modest makeshift office. They discussed cost, restoration plans, and the philanthropic event Keanu hoped to organize. There was no mention of who Keanu was or whether he could afford it. Sam treated him as a regular client, trusting in the integrity of the process. By the time they concluded, Keanu signed the necessary documents and shook Sam's hand. The purchase itself, he knew, was about more than just acquiring a car. It was about championing the notion that respect should never hinge on appearance or money. Sam, entirely unaware of the fiasco that had exploded on the internet, was stunned when he later learned the backstory. In a flurry of phone calls and text messages from local reporters, he realized he had unknowingly played a role in an unfolding national conversation about prejudice and decency. The vintage car's restoration took several weeks. Keanu spared no expense in making sure it was perfected, mechanically, aesthetically, historically. He hired passionate craftsmen who put love into every detail. During that time, media outlets approached him nonstop for interviews, hungry for commentary on the viral dealership altercation. Keanu politely declined formal interviews, consistently stating through a short statement, "The focus should be on how we treat others, not on me. Every person deserves respect, no matter their attire or bank account." Finally, the day arrived when the restored car was unveiled at a charity event in downtown Los Angeles. The polished exterior gleamed under the lights, a testament to the collaborative effort that had transformed a tired shell into a shining masterpiece. The proceeds from auctioning it off would fund organizations dedicated to inclusivity and kindness, exactly the kind of cause Keanu wanted to champion. Before the auction commenced, Keanu took the stage briefly to address the gathered crowd. "I started this project because I love classic cars," he said, voice warm but firm. "But along the way, I was reminded just how quickly we judge each other. Respect isn't a luxury, it's free, and it's something we can all share without limit." Applause rippled through the attendees. Many wore stylish gowns or suits, but the spirit of acceptance was palpable. Keanu concluded, "In a world where appearances can deceive, let's strive to see the heart beneath the surface. Thank you for supporting this cause and for being part of the conversation." A hush fell as bidding began. The final amount soared far beyond the car's estimated worth, fueled in part by the story behind it. The winning bidder, a philanthropist deeply moved by the events, pledged additional funds to broaden the scope of the supported organizations. Cameras flashed, capturing the triumphant conclusion of Keanu's vision. Yet for Keanu, the real victory was in planting a seed of transformation in countless hearts. Those who witnessed how a single moment of disrespect could spur waves of empathy and reflection. That night, as he left the event, Keanu reveled in a quiet contentment. The journey had been unexpected, shaped by adversity in a luxury dealership, but it ultimately blossomed into something far more profound. He whispered a small note of gratitude for the lessons learned and for the car, now symbolizing a greater good in a world often rife with hasty assumptions. In the aftermath, What began as an unpleasant confrontation inside a high-end showroom matured into a global conversation about dignity. Richard's hasty punch and Keanu's calm reaction became emblematic of how easy it is to judge someone by their outward appearance, and how destructive such judgments can be. The dealership's management tried to rectify its public image by revising policies, firing those responsible, and promising that no customer would ever again feel unwelcome. Yet the public's memory of the incident lingered like a cautionary tale. Simultaneously, Keanu's choice to purchase a classic car from a modest lot underscored the genuine essence of luxury: respect. Far from simply moving on, he used the experience to spark tangible change. The restored car's auction raised substantial funds for nonprofits dedicated to combating prejudice and nurturing compassion. Social media, at first raging with indignation, pivoted toward celebrating kindness, as users shared personal stories of overcoming biases in everyday life. Over time, the hype died down, replaced by a quieter but more enduring outcome. People often recounted the story of how a Hollywood actor turned a disrespectful encounter into a call for empathy, reminding everyone that even a small gesture of open-mindedness can shift perspectives. Stripped of celebrity glamour, the message stood clear. Real worth isn't determined by brand labels or social strata. It lies in our willingness to treat one another as equals. In the end, what truly resonated was Keanu's steadfast refusal to perpetuate hostility. Rather than revenge, he sought a broader, uplifting purpose. By reframing an ugly moment into a powerful statement about valuing humanity, he inspired countless individuals to think twice before judging someone's clothes, station in life, or background. It was a testament to respect's transformative power, priceless, unlimited, and worthy of universal pursuit.